The Citizen Mike Show. News. Commentary. Interviews. Citizen Mike Show starts now.
Welcome to the Citizen Mike Show. Thanks for tuning in. We do appreciate it. My name is Mike Burdinsky, and on my right, he is back, Chris Shortell. We couldn't get rid of you.
Couldn't get rid of me.
A special guest in the studio tonight is the executive director of the Wallingford Community Theater, Mary Ellen Eccles. Welcome back to Citizen Mike Show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, we invited you here for a reason. We hear these rumors that
Of course.
something very hot and very popular is popping over at Town Hall. What's going on?
I'm excited about this. We are doing Our Town, Thornton Wilder's Our Town. It's a kickoff for the Wallingford 350 Jubilee. So this is the first one. I think it's the perfect choice to do. It's all about small town America, and we're one fabulous small town in America.
Kind of like River City?
Yeah, even better.
Even better than River City for those, the Music Man? No, never mind.
Before my time. A little bit before my time.
Okay, tell us a little bit about the play.
Okay, well, it's usually used to be required reading in most English classes in most schools, and that's where I first came across it as probably a 14-year-old. And it's all about, it's really kind of a love story about small town America and the everyday life, the small things in life, the details. And it's really a celebration of that.
Chris?
So you are doing this play in the town council, the Robert Parisi Chambers.
Yes, we are.
And so first of all, this play was my mother was an English teacher, Lyman Hall.
Yes.
And she loved this play. It was her favorite play, and it was my sisters and I, well, at least my favorite play. I think my sisters liked it too, growing up. So I guess my question is, I'm quite familiar with it. The set is very sparse, if memory serves. There's a couple ladders. How do you can't build around, or how do you build around all the stuff we use at the town council every 2 weeks?
Right. First of all, we're very grateful that we have the use of that space for our repertory. But we do have to work around it. We have an amazing set designer, Dave Stein, who is a genius at this. It is a very sparse set. There's really no sets. There's no scenery. There's no props. Everything is pantomimed, which is a challenge for the actors, but they've really risen to the occasion. So I'm excited because we have 6 flats, and that Dave is erecting, and we're hanging 600-year-old plus quilts. Wow. From those as a backdrop, with the beautiful quilt that was created for the 300th that hangs right over your desk. And Dave also we went to the Historic Society, and we had pictures taken of some of the pictures that are there, and he's blowing them up, and they'll be suspended from the ceiling.
Oh, wow.
So it's going to be very cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited.
That's really cool. You mentioned the actors, and how does that, in terms of casting, because this is the 350th, you also do the musical, which has more parts, I would assume.
Right.
This play has a lot of parts, I think, for a stage play. But
it does. It's got about 15.
Yeah. But how does, was casting a challenge, or were you turning people away?
It is always a challenge. You want to have the best fit. I always try, with repertory, it's more like traditional theater. With the summer musical, everyone interested gets to be a part of it. Right. But with the repertory, it's run more like a professional theater. We have mostly Wallingford people. They're incredibly talented. And we also have a few out-of-towners that are outstanding. We have one Shakespearean actor on his resume was waiting for Godot.
Okay, wow.
You don't see that too often.
This is a good segue to get some photos up of who those cast members are. So Bruce is going to start them in sort of sequence, and I'll cue him verbally, but Mary Ellen, introduce us briefly to to the cast members as they come up on
Sure,
the screen. Okay.
sure,
Let's
okay.
get that first one up there and
All
see.
right, okay. This is Jen Passaretti. She is the narrator. She plays the stage manager.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she's amazing. She was Mrs. Wormwood in Matilda.
Yes, and she is also the newest member of the Inland Wetlands Commission. We just swore her
That's
in
right,
last night,
that's
just
right.
for those
She's
of you. So she's doing it all.
Yeah, professor down at UNH in biology, so
Okay.
she's one busy lady.
Next.
This, I love this. This is Matthew Bennett. He's our senior staffer. He was an intern with us. He has a degree in theater, both tech and performance. He plays the lead role of George Gibbs. He's wonderful. He's so talented.
Okay, next.
Oh, this is Jack Bender. He and his dad, Bob Bender, are both in the play, which I think is a cool lifetime experience. He plays the part of Joe Crowell, the paperboy.
Okay, and next.
Oh, this is Jen's other half. This is Joe Passaretti. And he plays this wonderful, disheveled, disorganized Professor Willard. I just absolutely love his performance. He's wonderful.
And next.
This is John Fabiani. This is the Shakespearean actor. He is a brilliant Dr. Gibbs. He was off book in a week. He's such a professional, and he's one of the kindest, most generous people in the theater I've ever met.
Okay, let's take those down. I want to read something to you from Wikipedia about the play and just see
Okay.
how your production compares. But before I forget, and before we run out of time,
Okay.
people watching this segment
Yes.
and you are going to want to rush out and buy tickets by the block.
I hope
They
so.
want to know the dates and they want to know how to get tickets. Why don't you take care of that little piece of
November
business?
22nd and 23rd at 7:30, and the 24th is a 2 p.m. matinee. It's in the town hall in the council chambers. You can get your tickets at the door if they're available. You can also, if you go to our Facebook page, Wallingford Community Theater, and that's theater with an R-E. If you just do that, we have a website, Wallingford Center for the Arts. You can go to those, and there's tons of information. But Gallagher Travel Shop, Connie's Kitchen, Amici Salon and Spa,
Okay.
they're all selling tickets.
So, let me read you a little bit from Wikipedia
Okay.
and then.
I feel like I'm being quizzed.
And then
Ready.
take it away.
Well, it
Says
is
our town-
Wikipedia.
Well, our town is so famous, but for those that aren't familiar with it, it sort of comes out of left field. Our town, like, what's that? So I just wanted to set
Right,
Right.
sure.
give a little context.
Sure.
It's a 1938 meta-theatrical three-act play by American playwright Thornton Wilder. It tells the story of the fictional American small town, a fictional American small town of Grover's Corners between 1901 and 1913 through the everyday lives of its citizens. Throughout, Wilder uses meta-theatrical devices, setting the play in the actual theater where it is being performed. The main character is the stage manager of the theater who directly addresses the audience, brings in guest lecturers, fields questions from the audience, and fills in playing some of the roles. The players perform without a set on a mostly bare stage. With a few exceptions, the actors mime actions without the use of props. First performed in Princeton, New Jersey in 1938, went on to success on Broadway, and this is your pre-Broadway opening, right?
Yes.
Yeah, pre-Broadway.
Yes, we're warming up.
So just compare what I read to your production.
I think that's pretty accurate. I think they use a lot of words like Nicolas Cage always talks about organic acting kind of thing. But it basically is exactly as they said. One of the things that I found interesting, tying it in with the 350, was the fact that he says Grover's Corners was founded in 1670. Well, so was Wallingford. He went to school at Yale, and he lived in Hamden, and he's buried in Hamden. And he loved this area. And because of, I was trying to remember, Bob Beaumont was telling me certain things that he loved, that he would come to Wallingford to see. So I think if not about Wallingford, I think we're in the mix there somewhere. I did explore, there's no other town in Connecticut or New Hampshire other than Wallingford, Connecticut, that was founded in 1670. So that's our little shout out from Thornton Wilder.
You got the final word, final question of.
Oh, can I just mention quick that after the matinee, we're having a chat with the cast and crew, and Bob Beaumont will join us with the audience. So you'll have a chance to ask questions and share things.
All right.
I meant to mention that.
Great. No, I think this is great. And you've done my favorite playwright's Eugene O'Neill, and that was I think one of the earlier rep plays you
Yeah,
did, and
yeah.
so that you did that one, and I love this play with Thornton Wilder. So I'm just really excited.
Oh, good.
Very excited.
It's your
This is-
sister's favorite play, too, I
It is,
think.
yeah. So this is
Well,
awesome.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Thank
I
you.
think it's going to be a sellout now that you've been here on the Citizen Mike Show.
Well,
I mean,
absolutely.
How could it
You can't
not
get
be?
better than this.
All right. You got to go see it. And thanks to Mary Ellen Eccles and to all the cast.
Thank you.
So, Chris, been a couple of pieces in the Record Journal in recent days about racist flyers popping up in town. Wallingford isn't the only town that's gotten hit. This phenomenon has been going on for a few years, especially in campuses, college, university campuses around the country. And when something like this happens, there's always the question of how public leaders, how political leaders, how government should respond. And I think there's a on the one hand and on the other hand, which I'm going to present to you, and to see what you think about it. And I'm not at this point taking sides. I may in about 6 minutes, but I'm not at this point. I just want to get the issues out. On the one hand, people say if you highlight it and get it in the media and publicly condemn it, you're giving the alt-right, the racists, what they want, which is media attention and another opportunity for them to be divisive and to sow discontent. The other hand says that no, we don't care about that. You really need to address this head on and condemn it publicly, and then there's all gradations in between. Where do you stand?
I stand that you have to condemn it because I believe that there is a large, I don't know if I want to say large, but in a town like Wallingford, which is mostly white, you could have people who are just simply unaware that these things are happening. So to me, raising awareness, it's like any of these issues, like with the opioid crisis. I may have told the story before. You know, there was someone with the opioid crisis who I talked to a few years ago who said, well, just say no. Well, no, that's not just say no. It's people getting, so it's similar to that, where I think that the risk of giving attention to the bad guys is outweighed by the possibility that you'll enlighten some people who otherwise wouldn't know.
So in this case, the flyers read, "It's okay to be white." That's what they said. This is not the first time that text had appeared. I'm not talking about Wallingford. I'm talking about across the country. I want to read you some stuff, and get your views on it again. This comes from the Anti-Defamation League website, and I'm not reading the whole thing, just a couple of passages. The "It's Okay to Be White" trolling campaign first emerged in October 2017 on 4chan, a discussion forum infamous for instigating trolling efforts and for the studied offensiveness of many of its posts. It is also known for its association with the alt-right segment of the white supremacist movement. There was that's from, I think, a 2018 post that the ADL put up. Something a little more recent, it was November 5, 2019. This was in, I believe it's U.S. News and World Report. A Tennessee university has opened up an investigation after signs saying it's okay to be white were placed around its campus, including on a display honoring the first African-American students to enroll in the school. At East Tennessee State University early Friday, the start of a weekend when historically African-American fraternities and sororities were to be honored on campus. Racist flyers were placed on multiple buildings and locations. The president of the university says it's an attempt to seed division and discord. There is a history of this language and its connection with the alt-right going back, a few years. The white power music banned aggressive force use the phrase as the title of a song that dates back to 2001. Additionally, the Anti-Defamation League has tracked white supremacist flyers featuring the phrase since 2005, and Klan groups have used the It's Okay to Be White, IOKTBW, on Twitter since 2012, and so on and so forth. Your reaction to what I just read, and then I got some thoughts of my own.
Well, I mean, my reaction's the same as when I saw the article, and I read a lot of the local news first. It's through Twitter. So I see a tweet from Record Journal or from Lauren Decoris, and I see the article, and I saw that, and my heart just sank. So, and I didn't know any of that. I didn't know, like to me, the phrase, it's okay to be white, it's just a dumb, I thought it's a dumb thing to say. And then I didn't know the history. So then, of course, reading the article and then, hearing your background, it's just ridiculous.
So I think one advantage or one reason why government should speak out with sufficient background is, hopefully the press picks it up. Who watches government TV? Very few people. So, and certainly the alt-right isn't. So it's important for government to speak out. I'm going to give you some specific reasons why I think so, and hope that the press picks it up. If the press doesn't pick it up, then it's sort of wasted. The opportunity is wasted. But unless the press picked it up, we wouldn't know the source of this. We wouldn't know. I didn't know the connection, just like you. I didn't know the connection to the alt-right, to the KKK. I had no idea. Now we know who's behind it. We wouldn't have known before. And if I was just walking down the street and seeing that, I don't know what I would have made of it. I think, thoroughly inappropriate. But now I know a ton more about it.
Right.
And so another angle, another aspect of it, if I don't know how African Americans or the African American community feels when they see something like this. I don't know. I don't want to presume to know.
Right.
But I'm gonna guess, and based on logic, that I would think that the African American and minority communities would want to know the government is in their corner when something like this happens. And so it's, I hope, assuring and reassuring for, in this case, the African American community, to know that their government stands with them against this alt-right, KKK sort of mentality. Your thoughts on what I just said?
Agreed. And I think to your point, I'm going to cite a related example on another issue.
Yeah.
That I'm going to give a shout out. I get $1 every time I mention someone's name on the show. So Tom Laffin, vice chair of the council, spearheaded this. He won't take credit for it, but he did. After the Parkland shooting in March of 2018, so almost 2 years ago, there was a forum at Town Hall. Everyone was sort of on edge, and it was Tom that made that happen behind the scenes. Along the same lines, trying to give people reassurance, to have Chief Wright talk, to have Sal Menzo talk, and the mayor, and have everyone come together. So I think, to your point about this, we didn't do a forum, but having Chairman Cervoni, another $1 for me, Chairman Cervoni reading an eloquent statement last night, expressing
at the town council meeting.
Councilor Morgenstein emailed him, and then they kind of worked out that he would read a statement, and I thought it was brilliantly written and delivered and heartfelt, and did show just what you're talking about, that the government does stand in their corner.
Let's move on.
Okay.
Referring back to the last elections that we had just a couple of weeks ago, it's fashionable to talk about, comment about. It's fashionable maybe isn't quite the right word, but I'm a rhetorical overreach. Turnout, percentage turnout. Everyone should vote. Some countries actually have a penalty if you don't vote. They keep a list, and they'll add it to your taxes or something. Not all, but it's commonly thought that the more people that vote, the better. Do you agree?
No.
Uh-oh. Better tell me.
Well, first of all, I think that
Go ahead.
We just had Veterans Day, where we honored our veterans, and what they fought and died for was our right to choose to vote. So there have been some time, different scenarios. I mean, I haven't been around as long as you have.
Wait a minute.
I got to work
ahead.
that in every show too. But
Go
there
ahead.
have been scenarios where I have chosen not to cast my vote for either person, and that's my right. That is absolutely my right. So I know that's not where you're going. You're going somewhere different with this. So we'll go where you're going. Your point, I think, is about an uninformed voter. And your point is, if voter turnout was 70% in a local election, does that matter, or is that meaningful if the extra 30% were just simply uninformed and voting on, the name they knew or the party affiliation? And that's why I say no. I think people need to be informed. And I think all the candidates, if we recorded something here for like a PSA, and both parties, we all said the same thing: get informed. We were all saying that. Go to the websites, look at the issues, talk to us. So I think you want an informed voter. And that's what you want to measure.
So there's a late night TV show. I think he's still on. I think it's on ABC, where they would go out and interview the man in the street and ask
Yeah.
questions of people walking down the streets in Los Angeles.
Right.
And the interviewer would go up with a microphone. I don't think they have any warning that this is coming, and they say, "Okay, we've been reading in the newspaper that Vladimir Putin got an award for the most valuable player in the last soccer game. Do you think that he should be given a special dinner at the White House?"
Right.
And the people, kind of fake the answer. Well, if he was a really good soccer player, I think he should. Or they may, say something like, well, Ho Chi Minh is going to run for Senate in Kansas. Do you think that would be a good idea? And they have no idea what's going on. And so when I watch that show, I say, wow, I hope those people don't vote.
Right.
Your thoughts on
Yeah,
what
no, I
just
hear you. I
said.
mean, I agree. You want informed voter. But I give, I watch those segments too, and they're funny. But I do think that again, you want to drive people to the information, and then then hopefully they vote.
So just to wrap that up, just sort of a final thought. So when folks post on social media or in casual conversation, they say everyone should vote, I think that's half the thought.
Mm-hmm.
The other part of your civic duty, if you're going to go vote, is be at least somewhat conversant in the issues, the candidates, where they stand, and what you're voting on. That's the other half of your civic duty.
Right.
But if you're voting and you're shooting blind, you have no idea who you're voting for or why. I'm not so sure it's valuable that those people vote. A little controversial statement, I suppose. Let's talk about opioids. Wallingford started a lawsuit a while back against opioid manufacturers and other defendants as part really of a movement across the nation of municipalities, states suing opioid distributors. Purdue is the big one, to try to recover the municipality's costs and Wallingford's costs incurred as a result of the opioid epidemic, and that might be extra ambulance runs, it might be overtime for fire or emergency medical personnel or other costs. That lawsuit has been sort of languishing, moving along at a fairly slow pace. No one really knows what Wallingford's claim is. Is it $10,000 or $100,000? We just have absolutely no idea. And then, lo and behold, the chief defendant, Purdue Pharma, filed for bankruptcy. This was taken up at a town council meeting last night. Switch over to you, a quick overview of what you learned and what the takeaway, what viewers should take away from the meeting.
Yeah, we started with an update from the attorney from the firm that we had. This all began with us actually almost 2 years ago. There was a bid waiver, which is one of your favorite things, to find a law firm to actually take this on. And so we had an update from the attorney on everything going on in the universe of these lawsuits. And one of the things that came out of that was there's actually, she called them forums. There's 4 forums. So the Purdue is one of 4 that we are involved in across the country. And she gave a very comprehensive update. So it was, and then she fielded questions from the council. And so following that, we went to executive session. There was one potential action based on one of the 4 forums that the town had to look at. And so that's what the executive session was about. But it was one of those, I mean, we probably had an hour. It was a really comprehensive update in public.
So a quick primer on bankruptcy law, but I got to make sure you limit this to 2 minutes because people are going to turn to Fox if I don't. Because this is
I
not
think they
supposed to
turned
be.
to Fox a few minutes ago.
Yeah. So under bankruptcy law, a company that finds itself underwater can declare bankruptcy and either go to a forced liquidation where all the assets are sold off at sort of fire sale prices, and each creditor gets a slice of the pie. It might be a penny on the dollar or 50 cents on the dollar, but that kind of ends that company. It is liquidated. There's another kind of bankruptcy called Chapter 11 where the company is allowed to keep operating if the creditors of that company, and Wallingford would be a creditor because Wallingford has a claim, it's unliquidated, we don't know exactly how much, but Wallingford likes to think of itself as a creditor. But the company is allowed to keep operating as long as the creditors believe they can do better, get more money if the bankrupt can keep going and stay in business and not sell its assets at a fire sale. And if the creditors believe, yeah, we'll let you keep going, but we want to see the cash. We want to do better than in a straight liquidation. In this case, Purdue Pharma would be able to keep going. This is a Chapter 11 bankruptcy, at least right now, I think it is. And Purdue Pharma is allowed to keep going. But one of the impacts as a matter of bankruptcy law is all lawsuits are come to a stop. All actions against the debtor come to a stop on the grounds that the debtor shouldn't be wasting its money on legal fees. It shouldn't be a free-for-all among creditors. Whoever gets their first bite of the apple gets and runs away with it. That's not permitted. So all lawsuits come to a stop, and that's what happened to Wallingford, I believe. The action, our lawsuit has come to a stop. Is that your understanding?
Partially.
Tell me.
Partially. And
Okay.
yes, the Purdue Pharma is one of the 4 forums that I mentioned. Or I don't know if forum's the right word. That's the word. She's the lawyer. She used that word. I would almost think of it as tracks. So yes, in that instance, that's correct for that track.
Okay. Now, we've been going under the assumption, you and I, that Wallingford's claim against Purdue Pharma is just. But it's very unclear that Wallingford could recover a dime if it went to a trial. It's an unproven claim. And this has to be worked out in bankruptcy court somehow. Does Wallingford really have a provable claim against Purdue Pharma and the other defendants? There was a case, I think, in North Dakota where a judge threw out a case against Purdue and some of the others. And I just want to read you a little bit and maybe read you a little bit more and then come back to you because it's valuable background. South Central District Judge James Hill on Friday threw out the state's claim. This is in North Dakota. Threw out the state's claim that Connecticut-based Purdue Pharma minimized risks and overstated benefits of long-term use of narcotic opioids, including OxyContin. North Dakota sought unspecified damages, that's what Wallingford is trying to do right now, and attempted to hold the company liable for opioid overuse and addiction in the state. The Bismarck-based judge ruled the drug maker doesn't control its product after it enters the market. Quote from the judge. I just got one sentence and then I'm done with this. Purdue cannot control how doctors prescribe its products. It certainly cannot control how individual patients use and respond to its products, regardless of any warning or instruction Purdue may give, the judge wrote. Obviously, it's a long and more involved case. But in that case, the government lost. Wallingford could lose too, and it's been undergoing some rough sledding in Connecticut. There was another case where it recovered like $500 million. Another jurisdiction recovered like $500 million, but there's no guarantee that would ever happen again. So right now, we just don't know what's going on. There's so many possibilities. One jurisdiction could recover, Oklahoma could recover, Florida could lose, Texas could recover, Connecticut could lose. Another article from October 19, citing mounting costs of litigation that are siphoning off funds that would otherwise go to abate the opioid crisis, a bankruptcy judge on Friday, this is recent stuff, ordered a pause in legal action by states against Purdue Pharma and its owners. The ruling was a setback for 25 states that have forcibly opposed a national opioid settlement negotiated last month among the company and the Sacklers, and so on and so forth. So you got that. And the most recent one is from the Washington Post, November 6. A federal bankruptcy judge on Wednesday extended its protection that halts scores of lawsuits against the Purdue Pharma. This bankruptcy judge says, don't sue, can't chase them, we got to get this organization in place or this reorganization in place. And somewhere in there in the mix is Wallingford. Is that your understanding of
Yeah, I mean, there's a
that
lot.
morass of cases? And
We're in the mix in several areas. There's a lot to unpack there. I would respond, that judge in North Dakota, I don't necessarily agree, not that I'm any expert on this, but I don't know that his opinion is necessarily the majority opinion. The other opinion is that that Purdue aggressively marketed this to physicians and downplayed knew the risks of these drugs, that they could easily lead to addiction, and downplayed that and in their marketing materials and in their highly aggressive sales approach, which has been documented. So I think I would respond by saying that. And the other thing is you cited that some states are opposed to a settlement. That's another divide in this whole situation. Is
Another complexity.
Another complexity. You have a group of states that are willing to settle now, based on what's been offered, and a group of other states like Connecticut who are saying no, we want to go after more money. We want to go after the people behind the company, and that raises. We discussed that last night in public, and that raises a whole other series of issues, because one of the questions was, what are we tied to what William Tong does in Connecticut? Do we have to follow his lead? And there really wasn't a clear answer. He would say, our attorney thinks that he would say yes, but we had a kind of a back and forth on that, if that really is the case. So I think that's another complexity too, is this sort of how far do you go in terms of settling or not. But I think the overall model for this is the tobacco settlement of the 90s. So to your point about, well, you have to prove it, I think the goal is to get that kind of settlement, and then hopefully, though, the difference being the tobacco money didn't really make it back to where it was supposed to go. One article I read said it basically just plugged some holes in state budgets. It didn't really get to improving health or improving society or improving from recovering from the damage that it did. So I think the hope here is that whatever money does come will go to do that.
did you get a sense as to when the next significant benchmark in time is? I mean, should we diary this ahead for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years? Is this a 10-year litigation?
It's going to take a while. There was a specific, November 22nd was a specific date on one of the 4 tracks that we had to talk about whether or not we would take action in executive session. So there was that one date. But big picture, this isn't resolving anytime soon. The bankruptcy, I think there was a stay in that case till April now. So that's going to delay that. These other cases, you have a consolidated track where you referenced that all the states are consolidated. That one judge in Ohio, I think, did that. It's not going to happen anytime soon. And I think the other thing that was mentioned last night that adds to the complexity is that some of these pharmaceutical companies are picking off some of the bigger cases and settling them, taking with certain counties and taking them out of the mix, and that's adding to it. So no, I don't see in terms of the calendar. I mean, I don't even want to speculate.
So one takeaway is this could take a long, long time. And the other thing I want to leave everyone with is there are more claims than there are assets. So Wallingford is not going to get a full recovery on whatever its claims may be. It's going to be a percentage. We just don't know what that is yet. And just have to wait and see. Moving on, Board of Education.
Sure.
Yeah, we didn't have a chance to talk about the election results for the Board of Ed on the last show. We focused more on the council and the mayor's race. But let's put up a slide that shows what happened in the Board of Ed race. Bruce, you got a little something there in colors? There we go. Now, the Board of Ed generally didn't attract as many votes as the council race or the mayor's race, and so the vote totals for the Board of Ed are a little bit lower, but you can see there the names in red are the Republicans, the names in blue are the Democrats, and that's the lineup. That's the roster. Any thoughts that jump out at you as you see that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good to be an incumbent. I think your top five are pretty close in terms of a couple hundred votes separate your top five. Congrats to Ray Ross. I think the one that jumps out at me is Tammy Raccio, because she switched parties, and she had I think early on when she got elected a year ago, she had voted for Roxanne McKay, but Tammy was a Democrat at that point, voted for Roxanne, a Republican, as chair, and that set in motion a chain of events that led her to run this time as a Republican. And that from a political science perspective, it's just interesting case study. Okay, what does that mean in the electorate? And apparently it didn't mean anything. And Tammy is a dedicated, great board member anyway, so I'm not surprised to see her do well. But it was an interesting case study to see if she would get penalized for that. But it appeared she clearly did not by the voters. So that's a good thing for the board. So
Okay, well, she had mentioned your mug on the last show, and I know you're very proud of your mug. So lift up that mug, and we know Tammy watches.
Tammy, yeah,
we know she watches the show, and just give her a little mug there, mug for the camera.
The mug actually says,
That's enough,
do not
okay.
put in the dishwasher,
All right,
which I
that's
did.
enough.
That's why it's kind of faded. So I should have read the label.
That's enough.
Yeah, you don't like Mike doesn't like the mugs.
Let's talk about the Board of Ed teachers contract that you
Sure.
guys just decided on at the last meeting. I understand you recused yourself from that vote because?
My sister Catherine is the Latin teacher at Lyman Hall, and her husband Chris teaches in the alternative school as well. So,
Well, are you free to talk about
oh,
this teacher contract here? Or you?
On the Citizen Mike show, there are no recusals.
No, that's right. This is an opinion show. Good opinions, bad opinions. Hey, we
Right,
got them.
right.
We got them all. So this is probably the largest contract that the town of Wallingford has, largest collective bargaining agreement. A lot of teachers, some healthy paychecks, and we're going to get into that. That's not a judgment; it's just a fact of life. I guess the marquee news story is how much were their raises, and the general salary account, the impact to the teacher's salary budget account is just under 3% per year. So that, to me, is the meaningful number. How much did the salaries go up in bulk? Mm-hmm. And it's just under 3%. It's a 3-year contract. So that's the important number. What's often publicized is something called the general wage increase, which is not nearly as important a number, but that's the one that's often reported. The general wage increase is the amount of raise that teachers on the top step, you progress through the ranks, as in a lot of professions, from grade 1 and all the way up until you are at the highest grade. Well, teachers have 13 steps. They go up 1 per year. And when you get to the 13th step, the highest grade you can be as a teacher, you're up against the ceiling, and your raises are limited by the general wage increase, which is only, I don't want to say only, but it's 1.65%, whereas teachers as a whole go up just under 3%. But some teachers, as they claw through the ranks and go up from grade 7 to 8 to 9 and go up these steps, they can get 6, 7, 8, up almost between 8 and 9%, just depending on where you are in the steps. Your thoughts on what I said, and then I want to get into the insurance.
It all sounds correct. I'm
Yeah.
going to be a caveman Republican on this one because I don't get steps. I don't, I've been in my job.
Well, it's a merit system maybe you don't deserve.
Well, but no, it's not a merit. So you get a step for simply being in the seat. So, and I'm not saying they don't deserve it. I'm just saying that I've had my job I've been in Anthem for 24 years. There were many years I didn't get a raise because our company didn't make money, and nothing was guaranteed. So I get that it's the private sector versus the public sector, but I don't, again, in a lot of the world, you don't get a raise, or you don't get any money just because you were in the same job for year after year. So whatever. That's
So to put some hard numbers on the theoretical discussion we're talking about, I'm looking at the salary schedule for the year 2020 to 2021. If you have 6 years of education and you're a teacher on the 13th step, the highest level, for that year, you're making over $98,000 a year, and it goes up a little bit from there at about
But
1.6.
and that's a good thing. Let me also
Yeah.
let me just
Yeah.
jump in, because I don't want to give the wrong impression. Connecticut, I think, has some of the highest paid teachers in the country, I've read, and that's a good thing. Like, educators should be in general, they should be well paid. I just wish it was more of a merit based. I want to pay the good teachers more. And that's my whole thing with the step system, that everyone gets treated the same, and we all know we're all human beings. In every profession, in every walk of life, there's people who excel and there's people who don't, and people in the middle. And I just think that's where I was coming from on that previous comment. But I do think it's a good thing that our educators do get paid well in general. They should be, at least the good ones.
Yeah, and in Connecticut, sure, they get paid a lot of money, but maybe it's not a lot of money. Frankly, it really isn't for a professional, and you wouldn't want your kid to be educated in, like, Mississippi, would you? I mean, you wouldn't
I
want
don't
that.
know anything about Mississippi.
Well, let me tell you, you wouldn't want that.
Okay.
So
Okay. Okay.
let's talk about the health insurance benefits. This is right
Sure.
down your alley, and when we prepared for the show, you pointed out to me that you could address this probably better than I could. So we prepared a couple of slides. Bruce, let's get that first one up and see what we have. And this illustrates something, Chris, but maybe you better walk me through what it illustrates.
So anyone that's followed, me in the last 6 years, all I talk about is the HSA, and so this is really part of that. The HSA.
What's the HSA?
Health savings account. It's an account that can be funded like a 401k, but unlike a 401k where you can't touch it till you're reach a certain age, you can use the HSA to pay medical expenses, and it rolls over. It's a great thing, and it's usually coupled with what's called a high deductible health plan. So that's what most of Wallingford's collective bargaining units have. So in the case of the teachers, we're using the example on this slide of a $10,000 of medical bills. What does the teacher pay? So the deductible for the teacher is actually $2,250.
Let me just stop you there. I'm going to aid the viewers a little bit.
Yep.
Near the middle of the circle, in small black print, in the colored, in the blue and in the red, is deductible. So you add together $1,000 plus $1,250, $2,250.
You're paying that up front before anything else happens. In the calendar year, you're paying that up front. But as an employer, the Wallingford Board of Education is putting in your HSA account $1,000. It's not all at once. It's 3 times. It's in 3 different deposits throughout the year. So in essence, your deductible really is $1,250. That's really what you're paying. So okay, that's the first step. So you pay your deductible. What happens next? Nothing happens next. And let me give one qualifier. This assumes you are in network, meaning that the doctor or the hospital you're seeing is in the network. And why I'm assuming you're in network is because 100% of the hospitals are in Anthem's network in Connecticut, and about 95% of the doctors. So this is an in-network example, and what happens is once you hit that deductible for the calendar year, the Board of Ed is picking up the rest of the cost, the $77.50, and everything after that until the next calendar year.
So we're going to have a contrasting slide in just a minute, but the thing to remember in this example, let's say there's an auto accident or something and medical bills of $10,000, the Board of Ed, which is self-insured.
The Wallingford Town and Board as an entity is self-insured.
So,
Correct.
so we're self-insured.
We're on the hook for all of it.
We're on the hook for all of it.
Correct.
So the Board of Ed picks up $7,750. Bruce, we got another slide to compare with private sector
Yeah,
insurance.
I would not use auto accident as an example because there's subrogation and
Yeah,
that,
right. Well-
you're the lawyer. I'm just saying that. Anyway, all right.
Let's
So
get the other, go ahead.
okay, so here is what a plan similar to what I have. Basically, same structure. HSA, you have a deductible. In this instance, $1,500. We're not assuming any contribution by the employer, so it's a straight $1,500 deductible. So same concept, you got to pay that up front. Okay, what happens next? Well, that orange slice is what the Board of Ed and none of the Wallingford bargaining units really have. It's this coinsurance.
But private sector
Private sector
policies-
has it, and that's where you pay a percentage, typically 20, but it could be up to 40, it could be higher. You pay a percentage of the costs up to a cap before the full coverage kicks in.
I just want to pound this nail a little deeper to make sure it doesn't,
Yeah.
doesn't get biased. So in private sector insurance, you're typically faced with a co-insurance
Yes.
payment
Yes.
that Wallingford teachers don't face.
Theirs is set at 0.
It's
So it's
0.
in there.
Okay.
They're going to say, and out of network, it's 20.
Okay, but
This
we're
is,
talking
but it's
in
hard to
network.
go out. You have to work to go out of network.
Okay.
Because everyone's in network.
Follow us through then.
So you pay a percentage. You pay that 20. The Board of Ed, or the employer in this case, picks up the other 80 till you hit a defined cap, and then at that point, the full the full coverage kicks in. So the employer's insurance, and often in the private sector, that orange thing is probably going to be even more money.
But
than what you
here,
see
the
here.
patient pays $1,700
Yeah.
plus $1,500, right?
Yeah, no, they're right.
For
but- yeah.
$3,200. That's what the patient pays.
Right. So
And the
they're-
employer's insurance pays $68.
right.
Bruce, flip back to that other slide. 68 versus
And
$77.50.
I would argue the gap could even be wider based on, I was trying to do some research on average private sector plans. But yeah, I mean, basically that is an opportunity. That orange slice is an opportunity to, save some money. And again, my whole thing is just trying to modernize these plans and get them more. We're not going to get them totally aligned with private sector. I get that. But like 5 years ago, all I was saying was get the HSA. So we get the HSA. And then there's a 0% co-insurance, and I'm like, all right, well this is kind of
Defeats the purpose?
HSA light,
Okay.
And really I should say high deductible plan light. HSA is a piece of it, so I think
right.
people are definitely turning to Fox now. I don't know how well that went.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure this information has ever really been presented before, and it's kind of
Yeah.
a step 1, step 2, step 3.
Yeah,
So I think it's valuable when there's, debates or discussion in front of the Wallingford Town Council about insurance costs. We can see that Wallingford health insurance is a little richer than private sector. Now, one could always argue, well, it should be, and
Yeah.
that's the way to go, and teacher salaries are capped, and town employee salaries are capped, so they deserve this extra
Right.
benefit. Whereas private sector, one day you could make $500,000 or something.
Right.
Don't want to get into that argument
Right.
tonight. I just wanted
Right.
some broad comparisons. Call it quits for tonight.
sounds good.
Sounds good. Thanks for watching the Citizen Mike Show. We do appreciate it. Okay, so we are here on Wednesday nights. You can see the Citizen Mike Show Thursdays, Fridays, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays on WPAA at 9. So if it's 9 at night, it's Citizen Mike. But don't leave me now. You can also see it on YouTube. Go to YouTube and search the Citizen Mike Wallingford channel. The show is probably up a day after we produce it. And if that doesn't work for you, I can make it even more convenient. Let me know you want me to email to you a link right to the YouTube production. I will do that. Get a hold of me through the studio, or call me up, or knock on my door, or whatever, and we can make that work for you too. Thanks, everybody. Good night.